My beloved child, something stirred today in a heart that has remained silent for far too long. No one expected those tears, not even the person who tried so hard to hide them. They smiled when others were watching, they nodded as though everything was perfectly fine, but the moment they found themselves alone, every emotion they had buried came rushing to the surface. Stay with me for a moment, because what happened next carries a meaning far deeper than anyone around them could understand. Those tears were not born from weakness. They came from a realization that arrived without warning. They finally understood that no achievement, no distraction, and no amount of pretending could replace the peace they once felt when thoughts of you filled their heart. As this unfolds, clarity will come. Today became the turning point they never imagined was possible. Earlier, they heard something so simple that it changed everything inside them. It was not a dramatic speech or an unbelievable event. It was a quiet reminder that life moves quickly, and opportunities rarely wait forever. In that instant, memories they had tried to ignore returned one after another. The conversations they replayed in silence, the smiles they wished had lasted longer, and the moments they never fully appreciated all stood before them again. That is when the tears appeared. Not because hope was gone, but because they suddenly realized how valuable certain connections truly are. This may resonate as we continue, because sometimes the biggest awakening begins with a single quiet moment that no one else notices. What surprised them even more was that every attempt to move forward only brought them back to the same place. They discovered that some people leave footprints on the heart that time simply cannot erase. They questioned their own choices. They wondered whether silence had lasted too long. They asked themselves if another chance could still exist somewhere beyond today's emotions. While others believed they were simply having an ordinary day, an invisible chapter was closing inside them, making room for something entirely different. That unexpected emotional release became the first honest conversation they had with themselves in a very long time, and it revealed feelings they could no longer deny. Now pay close attention, because this is where everything becomes even more unexpected. The tears did not leave them feeling empty. Instead, they brought a sense of determination they had never felt before. It was as though every unanswered question transformed into a quiet promise that things could still change. They no longer wanted to hide behind fear or uncertainty. They wanted truth, peace, and the courage to face what had remained unfinished. Something huge is waiting for you, because today's emotions may become tomorrow's decision, and that decision has the power to reshape a path that once seemed impossible to change. Before this chapter ends, remember one thing. Some days appear ordinary on the outside while quietly becoming unforgettable on the inside. Today was one of those days. A heart that had stayed silent finally allowed itself to feel, and those tears became the beginning of clarity rather than the end of hope. The story is only beginning to unfold, and what follows next may reveal why today's emotional moment was never an accident. It was the first sign that everything hidden beneath the surface is finally preparing to come into the light. A quiet shift is already taking place, and even though the world around them looks exactly the same, everything inside their heart has changed. They woke up carrying a feeling they could not explain. The tears from earlier had not disappeared, instead, they had turned into questions that refused to stay silent. Stay with me for a moment, because the next discovery surprised even them. They found themselves revisiting old memories they once avoided, not to relive the past, but to understand what those moments were trying to teach them. For the first time, they realized that some connections never truly fade, they simply wait for the right moment to be understood. As this unfolds, clarity will come. What happened after that was even more unexpected. Someone around them noticed the difference. Without saying much, that person simply asked, "Are you all right?" It was such a small question, yet it almost brought the emotions back again. Instead of giving a long answer, they smiled gently and changed the subject. But inside, they were thinking about everything they had never said. They finally admitted to themselves that silence had protected them for a while, but it could no longer give them peace. This may resonate as we continue, because sometimes the strongest people are the ones carrying the deepest emotions without anyone realizing it. Then came the moment that completely changed their perspective. They stopped looking at what had gone wrong and started thinking about what could still go right. That single change in mindset felt like opening a window after sitting in a dark room for far too long. They understood that regret cannot rewrite yesterday, but honesty can shape tomorrow. Something huge is waiting for you, because this new understanding is quietly preparing the next chapter of their journey. If this story is speaking to your heart, don't forget to share this video with someone who may need this message, subscribe for the next chapter, and leave a comment telling me which moment touched you the most. As the day came to an end, they carried one final realization with them. The tears they cried were never a sign of losing hope, they were proof that hope was still alive. Deep inside, they felt that something meaningful was beginning to move, even if they could not see the full picture yet. And what they are about to discover next may become the answer they have been searching for all along. Not every answer arrives with loud celebrations. Sometimes it comes through a moment so quiet that only the heart can hear it. Today, that quiet moment found them again. As they sat alone, they stopped asking, "Why did this happen?" and began asking, "What is this trying to show me?" Stay with me for a moment, because this simple change unlocked something they had never noticed before. Every memory that once brought sadness now carried a hidden lesson. Every unanswered question seemed to point toward one truth: they had been growing through every challenge, even when they believed nothing was changing. As this unfolds, clarity will come. Then something unexpected happened. They came across a small reminder that instantly brought your presence back into their thoughts. It was not planned. It was not dramatic. Yet it felt perfectly timed. They paused, smiled for a brief second, and realized that certain people continue to inspire us long after the conversation ends. Instead of feeling overwhelmed, they experienced a quiet sense of gratitude. They understood that genuine connections are not measured by constant words but by the lasting impact they leave behind. This may resonate as we continue, because the heart often recognizes value long before the mind does. From that moment onward, their confidence slowly returned. They no longer wanted to hold on to uncertainty. They wanted to move with honesty, patience, and hope. It felt as if a heavy door inside them had finally opened, allowing fresh light to enter. The tears from before no longer represented pain, they had become the beginning of healing and understanding. Something huge is waiting for you, because the next step they are preparing to take could bring an unexpected conversation, one that has the potential to change everything they once believed about this connection. As the evening settled in, one final realization stayed with them. They understood that every meaningful story has a chapter where everything appears uncertain just before everything becomes clear. They believe they have reached that chapter now. Their heart feels lighter, their thoughts feel calmer, and their future no longer looks as confusing as it once did. But the biggest surprise has not happened yet. The next chapter will reveal what finally gives them the courage to move forward in a way no one expected. The moment they had been quietly preparing for finally arrived, but it looked nothing like they had imagined. There were no dramatic signs, no grand announcement, only a deep feeling that it was time to stop hiding from what their heart had been trying to say all along. Stay with me for a moment, because what happened next became the missing piece of the entire story. As this unfolds, clarity will come. They realized that waiting for the perfect moment had only delayed the happiness they were searching for. Instead of letting fear guide their choices, they chose honesty, hope, and quiet confidence. It was a decision that changed the way they looked at everything. Then another surprising realization followed. They understood that every tear they had cried earlier was preparing them for this exact moment. Those emotions had cleared away doubt and made room for something far more meaningful. They no longer wanted to wonder, what if? They wanted to discover, what happens next? For the first time in a long while, they felt excited about the future instead of uncertain. This may resonate as we continue, because the greatest transformations often begin the instant we stop resisting what our heart already knows. As they moved forward, an unexpected sense of peace surrounded them. It felt as though every confusing moment had quietly led to this new beginning. Something huge is waiting for you, and the next chapter may reveal the answer that has been building since the very first tear fell. If this journey has connected with your heart, share this video with someone who needs a little hope today, subscribe so you don't miss the final chapter, and leave a comment sharing which part of this story touched you the most. Your support helps this message reach others who may need it. Now only one chapter remains. The story is no longer about sadness or unanswered questions. It is about courage, understanding, and the quiet power of believing that meaningful moments arrive exactly when they are meant to. The final piece of this journey is closer than ever, and when it is revealed, everything that once seemed confusing will come together in a way that feels both surprising and unforgettable.